Alright, so I'm back up on the roof of my RV today to do a follow-up video for the best way to attach solar panels to the roof of your RV, which I have to say thank you very much. That has been a very popular video. It's been tremendously received, and I'm very grateful for that, and I'm glad that my idea has found other people that find it interesting and useful. And because of that, though, I've had a lot of questions in the comments about different things in that video, and I'd like to take the opportunity today in this video to answer some of those questions, to go in a little bit more detail about how this was all installed, answer questions, talk about some more about the components. Now I'm going to be referring to notes here so that I can remember to cover everything. So forgive me if I keep looking at my phone. First of all, just a quick reminder, there are links to all of the components that I use in the installation of all the solar panels, including the solar panels, the mounts, all of that stuff, in the description of the video. Some of those are affiliate links where I make a little bit of money if you end up buying something from that. I do appreciate if you'll do that, but just full disclosure there. It actually has helped the channel out quite a bit. From the money I've been able to get from those affiliate links, I've been able to do some upgrades to the trailer and buy some additional components. So again, thank you very much for following those links and buying stuff, those of you who did. So again, remember, all of the stuff that we talked about will be in links in the description. All right. So first question I want to talk about is what type of strut channel to use. Now I used the galvanized, it's actually the electro galvanized steel strut channel, and then I had that strut channel powder coated, which, to be honest, I'm not disappointed with. I actually really like this. The galvanized steel is some of the cheapest of the strut channel cost-wise, and the powder coat just gives it a really nice, smooth feel. So I'm not at all disappointed with what I chose to go with. However, there have been a number of people who have pointed out in the comments that you can get different types of strut channel. There is a stainless steel available, which is great because that's going to help you avoid rust and corrosion. There's also an aluminum version that's available as well. Both of those look interesting, but to be honest, they are a lot more expensive. Based on the costs that I've seen, the stainless steel is just about as expensive as going with the galvanized plus powder coat. And the same thing is true for the aluminum. Now with aluminum, obviously you're gonna get some weight savings, which can be nice, I suppose, but to be honest, the amount of weight that you're putting up here in strut channel is not super significant if you go with the steel, so I'm not really worried about that. But having said that, in the future, when I do this again, to be honest, I might look more seriously at the aluminum version of the strut channel. Now, availability also came into to play in a large case for me. When I did this, I could actually just go down to my local Lowe's or Home Depot and pick up the galvanized strut channel, and then I've got a local guy here that does powder coating that was able to take care of that for me. So I didn't have to worry about paying additional shipping costs or any of those things. I was not able to find, at the time I was looking locally, the stainless steel. Well, I didn't realize there was stainless steel, so to be honest, I didn't find it because I wasn't looking, but I've looked since and I haven't been able to find a good place to source it locally. And the same thing goes for aluminum. I can find those, but at their online pricing. I like to get the long 10-foot lengths rather than the shorter lengths, and those are a lot more difficult and a lot more expensive to ship. So just a little bit on the types of strut channel and why I chose to use what I did. All right, what's another one of the questions here? Oh, spacing. So some people are asking me how I determined how wide to do this spacing. And so let me just kind of tilt the camera down here really quick, and let me kind of show you how I figured some of that out. So let's see if this works so I can show the details here. All right, so the mounts that I went with here are these angleable or tiltable mounts, which I'll talk about in a little more detail in just a minute. The way I figured out the distance to go between here is I basically just took these angle mounts because I knew they were the mounts that I wanted to use because they would work for either the 100 watt or the 200 watt panels, which I'll show you in just a minute. They were wide enough, and I just used that as my way to figure out. So I just came in here. Let me go to this side because it's probably easier to see the details of what I'm talking about here. So I just came in and figured out where I could drill, I could get through one of these pre-drilled slots in the panels on both ends, and then I just lined the channel up with that. So you can see I could have actually gone just a little bit wider. I chose to go with the second one in. Now the reason I chose to go with the second one in is because it allowed me to not have interference, any potential interference with the bolt when I'm trying to screw these wing nuts and other plastic nuts that hold on the top part of the angle mount. So that's why I chose to go one step in rather than all the way out. But obviously you could go all the way out if you really wanted to. So that's how I figured out how to do the width. Now these tiltable mounts that I've got, as I mentioned, work perfectly fine for both the 100 watt panels where you have all this extra space here, or the 200 watt panels that come out to probably closer to here in width. And again, I'll show you some examples when we go up front, and I'll show you the additions of the panels there. But I think they're kind of the best options that are available for general use. It gives you more generic use. All right, so let me go ahead and bring this back up to looking at me here, and we'll talk about a few more things. All right, I've got another phone here I'm using to control my camera and see what the view's like. All right, what's the next question I had here? Oh yeah, how to attach the strut to the roof. Now, there's actually been a lot of debates about the method for attaching the strut channel. Now, the method that I used was I basically screwed it or bolted it to the roof and then made sure I sealed that all up. Now, there are some tricks and some things you need to watch for in doing that. And I'm going to go into a little more detail and show you exactly how I did that. But there were some other suggestions of people in the forums, or the forums, the comments that actually merit some discussion. So there were a couple of people who mentioned, well, why didn't you take and use like the 3M VHB very high bond tape and stick that to the bottom of that and use that to adhere the strut channel to the roof. Now let me actually turn this down here a little bit. It's going to be pointing to things, and that allows you to kind of see what it is I'm pointing to. So anyway, why didn't I put that here on the bottom rather than screwing in? Why didn't I use that to stick to the roof? Now, in my situation, I don't think that would have been the best option because I have a roof membrane on the top of my rig. And in previous rigs where I've had to do some repairs, this roof membrane is not structurally attached to the roof. It's actually just glued down to the roof. And I've had situations on previous rigs where this stuff starts to come loose. And so if you have a roof membrane on the top of your rig, I personally am afraid that going with the VHB tape to stick this stuff down is probably not the best option, because you are basically gluing to something that's only glued, and how well it's glued, who knows, to the roof. And I don't think you're going to get good structurally sound connections. However, having said that, if you were to have something like an Airstream or a motor coach or something that's got like a steel, or a metal, like aluminum or steel or even fiberglass roof, then the VHB tape might actually be a really good idea to use to adhere this stuff to the roof, because you don't have to worry about that roof membrane. And that VHB tape really sticks hard, especially if you run it all the way down. Even if you don't do all the way down, you just do it in different sections, it probably would stick well enough to attach this stuff well to the roof. So I think it's a pretty good option, but again, only to be used in the right application. So let me look at my notes here to make sure I'm covering stuff. Okay, another question that was asked quite a bit is, what screws did you use to attach this to the roof? Tilt it. Well, I just leave that where it is because I can point to things here, and I'll bring it up a little closer when we look at it. These are the screws that I used. All right, let me make sure you can see this here. These are the screws that I use. Okay, self-tapping, very heavy-duty hex head bolts. Okay, electro-galvanized, so you're not going to have problems with the similar metals. These are the bolts that came with these mounts. And as you can see, I have a whole bag of these things left that I didn't use from all of these angle or tilt mounts that came with those tilt mounts. So other people ask, well, how many screws did you screw into the roof? This is again one of those advantages that I think I highlighted in the first video, is going with the method of using the strut channel to attach. You actually are putting fewer holes in your roof than you would if you were to use the traditional way of taking these and just screwing every one of your tiltable mounts into the roof. As you can see, all the tilt mounts that I put up in here, and I still have a whole bag of screws left that I didn't end up using. So just perfect example that there are actually fewer holes in the roof than it would have been had I gone the traditional route. And that's even considering, and let me bring you up a little bit closer to see this. All right, let's see if that is going to give you enough detail here that you can see. That's even, in my case, using 2 screws per roof truss. And the reason I ended up using 2 of these screws per roof truss, I was originally going to just take and use these with like a fender washer or something. And I found that I was having a hard time getting a fender washer to fit in there the way that I wanted to, or even another washer. And so what I ended up doing is basically putting one of these on either side of these holes here, right? So that it would, I don't know, might be easier if I move this just a little bit and go a different direction here. There we go. That allows me to go either side of this hole, and that locks it down by grabbing either side of that notch or that hole that's in the bottom of the strut channel. And both of those are into the roof strut, or the roof truss that goes underneath. And the method that I used was, as you can kind of see on this, I would put down first, before I'd figure where I needed to, where my roof truss was, where I was going to screw, and then I put a big glob of your lap sealant, the Dicor lap sealant. I put a big blob of that down in that hole where I was going to screw, and then I would screw these things down, these bolts here, through that blob of Dicor, and then I would come back and put another big blob of Dicor on top of that, and it would self-level out and cover up any of the other potential holes or leaks that I might find. So that was how I attached those there. And then again, I found however often that I wanted to put. Now I don't think I went every roof truss. I think I went like, in some cases, every other. Some of them I did every one, like this one here. This was towards, let me tilt this up a little bit so you can see. This one here was towards the end of the end of the length, so I put it right there, and then the next closest roof truss was right here, so you can see there was a bit of a length here between the end and here, so I put one here, and then I put another one right back behind it on the next roof truss because it was getting close. And this happens to be a shorter piece, this one right here. This is like a 5-foot piece, and so I have got 2 of them closer together. Let me show you here. I've got 2 of them closer together, like one right here and one right here, and then I skipped one, and then I went down and hit one down there on the end. And I kind of did that same thing farther up the line. If you go along here, I didn't hit every single one of the roof trusses. I went like every other roof truss or so. So I got the one here on the end, and then the next one is like 2 trusses up. that direction. So if you wanted to, you could go every roof truss, but I think that was a bit overkill, at least in my case, and it saved me putting fewer, more holes in the roof. I have fewer holes in the roof by going every other roof truss. Which then brings to the next question. How do I know where my roof trusses are? Well, let me show you. Well, if I remember, I'll roll in. I got a roof plan, an actual roof plan from my RV dealer of this rig. So they were able to talk to Grand Design. They got a roof plan from Grand Design and gave me a digital copy of that. Now I had to go through my RV dealer. I couldn't go directly to Grand Design for some reason. They made me go through my RV dealer. You may have different luck if you try going through your RV dealer, but anyway, I was able to get a roof plan. Again, I'll roll in a example of that here in the video if I remember. And that told me exactly where everything was. But if you don't have a roof plan, you can just use a simple stud finder, and you can actually see, I don't know if you can hear the beeping, that it's actually showing that, sure enough, it's actually able to pick up where the roof trusses are. Now I had another one back here that I think showed a little bit better. Let's see if this one works. Yeah, so you can see beep. You can see there, you can use, again, just a simple stud finder to figure out where your roof trusses are if you're not able to find or get a roof plan for your particular RV. Now there's another thing that you can do to kind of help figure this out as well, and there are some spaces that are always going to have roof trusses, and those spaces are, let me move up here. You're always going to have roof trusses around your vents. So there's going to be a roof truss on one side and a roof truss on the other side, and it's going to probably give you about the spacing that the rest of your roof trusses are. So you could actually start pulling your layout from one edge or the other of your roof vents, and then come down 16 inch on center, or 12 inch, or 20 or 24 inch, probably going to be more like 16 inch on center, and figure out where your roof trusses should be, and then use the stud finder after that to figure out exactly where you need to screw and to drill. And it's, again, super important that you put things only where roof trusses are, because, and I don't know how well you can see this, but let me see if I can do this over here by one of these. When you step on the roof, you can actually see, if I'm not on a roof truss, you can see that it ends up gapping right there. And you don't want to put your screws in between roof trusses, because it's going to gap, and that's extra stress that'll end up pulling your screw right out of the plywood and exposing a hole, where if you're right up next to a roof truss, you can still see a little bit there. That's kind of a bad one, because it's there. This one's better. You can see, you still see a little bit of play underneath it. No, that's not even a roof truss. Hold on, there it is. Duh, right here. So if you can see right here next to this roof truss, when I step, it doesn't move and it doesn't flex. Okay, but in between, it does flex. So it's another good reason why you want to always put things right on an actual roof truss. All right, let's move back here so I can take a look at my notes again. All right. What's next?